In honor of the fact that Ben Roethlisberger went bananas.
Crazy game.
522 yards.
6 touchdowns.
Yeah, 40 out of 49. Unbelievable. But you can tell he didn't throw deep that much because 40 completions, 522. That's not that many yards per completion.
But he's been partying in the bathroom again.
Yeah. Oh God, you're terrible. You didn't do that. He did do that. But before we get to a guy I'm going to compare to Roethlisberger, although actually you can do this. Presas, Michael Gonzalez, Mock, all those big quarterbacks. Is there a better big quarterback than Roethlisberger?
Yeah.
But how do I say it? Roethlisberger. It's hard to say. Yeah, if you have a list, it's even harder.
Yeah, he's like the John Kruk of the
I saw that guy the other day on TV. Man, he's big as a house. Yeah. Golly. Ugly guy. But I'll tell you what, he could hit. 300 lifetime, right?
Yeah.
Or close. All right. Let's start quarterbacks part 2. The first guy I want to bring up is one of the gurus of the game back in the day. I told you his name earlier. See if you can remember how to pronounce it.
Jerry Tomsu.
Tomsu was a coach at Los Fresnos in Mission, late 60s, early 70s. Those were the first years where we started to see some passing teams, right? And ironically, most of the passing in the early days took place in the small schools, right? So you got this kid, Vasquez at Santa Rosa, Vicente Arizmendi at Los Fresnos, but the best small school quarterback of the 70s says here, statistically, was Armando Munoz from La Jolla. Him and Hector, it was Gandaria, I can't remember how you say the name, but also a great basketball player. He was an all-state receiver. They had a ton of yards. They had 200-something yards a game.
Wait, so you're telling me La Jolla actually passed before?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, it was incredible. Yeah, they were one of the first passing teams. Los Fresnos was one of the first passing teams, and then Mission later on. Now, we're going to talk about, those were the 70s guys. I had to finish that up because you can't go through the 70s without mentioning these cats. Now, in the 80s, tell me these two guys from the Brownsville Pace, back in the early days of Pace.
David Bryan and Danny Alvarez.
David Bryan, Danny Alvarez. Look, Pace, when it first came in, struggled for a couple of years, was a 4A team, and did very well. I mean, I think they made the playoffs 4 out of 5 years, like 80 to 84. They were amazing. They had that big upset against Gregory Portland one year in the playoffs. It was amazing. Both those guys had enormous arms, and I think one had 2,200 and one had 1,800. Now, keep in mind, if you say a guy in 2014 has 2,000 yards, that's all right. It's pretty good. But back in the early 80s, that was a lot of yards, man. It really was. So Pace had some good ones. Edinburgh High will stay close to home here. You remember Steve Alaniz. You know that guy. Played for Notre Dame, the great, tall, strapping kid. Also a great basketball player, by the way. J.P. Cantu and this guy in 1984 hooked up 1,000,000 times, man. That was one of the best passing groups that we had in the 80s.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, Eddie Macias was good for Harlingen in 82. I remember him. But the best Harlingen quarterback that you might never have heard of. Let me tell you about Garth Finnegan, just for a minute. And the Cardinal fans are like, I know this guy. Garth Finnegan was the son of a physician. His father was a well-known physician, just a great guy, really respected. Garth Finnegan was a great athlete, man. He could have done anything. He was a great quarterback back in '88 for the Cardinals. Now, the irony is, if they'd had him the next year, then Harlingen might have won that 4th-round playoff game. Although, I don't know, if they could have had Roethlisberger, they might not have beaten Judson. But my point is, Garth Finnegan, he went to BYU. He was good enough to play BYU. I'm not sure if he played that much, but they gave him a chance. He was good enough. Garth Finnegan was a great quarterback of the 80s. And the other guy is Rocket Roy Gonzalez of Santa Rosa. I had the pleasure of watching that kid. He would just sling the ball downfield, 40 yards on the line. I think he had maybe 4,500 career. A couple of great seasons. They had some really good, again, the small schools sometimes will throw the ball because they got nothing to lose. Santa Rosa was fun to watch back then.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, there's somebody, when we move, to the 80s, Mission seemed to dominate the quarterback, top quarterbacks.
Rusty Dowling was a guy who came to the Valley. He'd had experience up at Morningside College in Iowa. That's where he had coached. Yeah. And he came to Mission in the mid-80s. And he had a good run of quarterbacks. And then when Sonny Detmer came down a couple of years later, Dowling left, Detmer took over. They had a run of quarterbacks you wouldn't believe, man. They really did. Andy De La Garza, Rick Gutierrez, both had big numbers. This is before Detmer. This is BD, before Detmer, right? It sounds like Doonesbury, right?
Yeah.
And everything
Plus,
is a
you
BD.
never want to get BD. It's like...
No, that's...
Oh, wait, that's a different one.
Yeah,
but,
that is a different one, yes. Please note that we're divided here.
Yeah.
The best quarterback of the 80s, and, for my money, maybe the best quarterback to ever play in the Valley, because we're not going to make a decision because it was the original shuck and jivers here, Lupe Rodriguez. You know that guy, right? Mm-hmm. He's a coach now in the Valley.
Mission Vets, offensive coordinator.
Now, nobody had really ever done what Mission did back in the 80s, man. They would throw the ball just about every play. I mean, they would throw any route you wanted. There wasn't no little dinks and dunks, although, they had long crossing routes, they had quick outs, they had flies, they ran everything. And man, Lupe Rodriguez, not a big guy, 5'11", 160 something. I mean, not a huge athlete, but what an arm, man, and what accuracy he had. Now, he also had two of the best receivers. Throw these names out to everybody because they're going to know them.
Nati
Valdez.
Yep.
Little guy, very good.
Yeah, he did like a little campus somewhere around here.
104 catches in '87. 104.
That's a little bit.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And Frank Hernandez, who, Frank went to Kansas State and did real well. He's now a coach. The last I heard, he was at U of H.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's a college coach. Both of those they were excellent kids in high school. That's right. He led the nation with 1,757 yards in '87. But look at Lupe's numbers, man. Throw these numbers out. This is amazing. 1987.
50 touchdowns. This is 1 year.
50
touchdowns, 4,179 yards, national records in 1987.
National records in both. Lupe Rodriguez was one of those guys who the rest of the country caught wind of him, and they were like, my God, what's going on down on the border? They would send guys down here to see Mission play because they would, take deep drops and throw long balls and They used to cross two guys, especially later on with Detmer. They would cross two guys 15 or 20 yards down, and the ball would just come on a line, whether it be Rick or Andy or Lupe or Detmer. They had the great combination of probably some coaches who were ahead of their time and athletes who could make those plays. But Lupe Rodriguez, there's a tendency to forget. How many years has that been? 87, 13, and 14, 27 years ago, almost 30 years ago. That's crazy. By district that year in '87, they played a very good Harlingen team, and they beat them 54-7. How many yards did Lupe throw on them?
He only had 422 and just 6 touchdowns.
Just 6 touchdowns against the Harlingen Cardinals in '87. That was insane. Of course, '88, '89, Harlingen was probably the best team in the Valley. But in '87, it was Mission, man. And then again in '90, it was Mission again. So they had great rivalries back in the day, both in basketball and football. So you must remember Lupe Rodriguez. And if you've not heard of him, when we're making our list for the best quarterbacks ever, he's going to be right at the top. He's going to be in the top 5. I can guarantee it.
Yeah, you guys can just drive over to Mission Bets and
say, hey, dude, what's up?
You should go see him.
Yeah, I wonder if he still throws passes to the kids. If not, then that's something wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, he put it right on the money almost every time. Okay, so we're through with the '80s. We'll go talk about the '90s. By the time we get into the playoffs in 2 weeks, we'll probably have talking about all the cats that have played the last 10 or 15 years. I think this is fun. To me, it's just like going down memory lane, but, I hadn't taken a chance in a while here to compare people, and like I said, maybe Volume 2 of Border Ball is somewhere in the wings. I don't know.
Yeah, speaking of that, you can get Border Ball at Barnes & Noble's, Amazon, just about anywhere.
Hey, you can come by and Jake will sell you one for probably about $15 over what it's worth. But all right. Hey, so this is the show. Well, we love what we do. Go to the ball games. Check out Overtime each week. We're turning back the clock and talking about some history.
Yeah.
Later. Did I put my thumb in front of my face? I think I did. Sorry. All right. We're out.